Well, it was actually billed once and for all. It was huge. You go back on the history, and you can actually see some of the great hype for it. There's actually a great little advertisement that's been done, promo for it, where they've obviously kind of done it in a way where they've shot it where Tyson sort of stood on one side looking up at Spinks, because obviously he was the taller man, and they're both sort of saying a few words to each other. It's corny as shit. It's a typical 80s commercial, really, and an 80s promo, but actually it's really nostalgic to look at, and I really enjoyed looking back on that. You know how it would have got you excited at the time for this, because obviously this was the undisputed World Heavyweight Championship, and that's not something that happens very often in boxing with the politics of it these days. So, back at this period of time, this, Mike Tyson, the undefeated young hungry guy against, the former undefeated, undisputed light heavyweight champion, and regarded as obviously IBF champion going into this. Tyson was actually the IBF champion going into this particular fight because he beat Tony Tucker for the IBF version of the title, who'd actually won the vacant version against James Buster Douglas. So it all ties into one nice little circle, really, of obviously history and how things went on after this particular fight. But it was obviously massive. It was massive. This was, at the time, the biggest fight and the richest fight in boxing history. It was around about 70 million is what was made from this fight, and Tyson received 20 million, Spinks received 13 and a half, and obviously the rest is history, really, isn't it? This particular fight is massive. It's massive, but it's also one of the things which I think is sad for Spinks and his career, and how people look back on his career and remember him, as the guy who got sparked by Tyson in 91 seconds. Now, it was interesting when I read back about Spinks's recollection of that particular fight, and he actually said, he wasn't even nervous as much as what it looked like on the footage. He actually said he went into the fight as he did for any other fight, but most people, when they watch the entrances and the demeanours and the way the body language was, in the ring, it looked like Tyson had already won that fight before the fight had even started. And it was crazy to see the events unfold and watching back on it as one of them fights where you said it quite rightly, absolutely hyped up, massive fight, but in some respects didn't deliver the way people wanted it to, because it was a one-round blowout.
Yeah, and I'm with you. It really is. I just sort of running through Spinks' career. I was one that said that he did look petrified. He did look quite scared to me. I still think it today. He even turns around and he said in a recent, I don't know how recent, I think it was like a couple of years ago, he said, "Man, I wasn't scared one bit. There was always nerves and worries. If I've had a problem in camp or something like that, but I went in feeling okay. There were times I felt like I might get knocked out, but I'll say every single Mike Tyson opponent has had to imagine that, but I wasn't scared in the slightest."
Hand lands to the head of Mike Spinks. It's Tyson all the way here in round number one. Vicious shots to the body. Nothing really heavy landing yet, but he's taking them. The uppercut. Body shot. Down goes Mike Spinks for the first time. The count is up to 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. That was a body shot that took him down. Here comes Mike Spinks in. He leads with the right hand. Down he goes. I don't think you get up from this. Mike Spinks is laying flat on his back. The count is up to 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. He won't be able to do it. It's all over. Mike Tyson has won it. Spinks almost fell back through a dramatic first round knockout for Mike Tyson. Unbelievable strike. It came in the first round.
So to his credit, he still to this day said he wasn't scared. He said that he knew he was up against it. Mike had the beating of him for power, strength and youth. He felt he had the legs, experience and speed, but his speed let him down. And that's how he sees it today. He gets questioned a lot about it, and it's probably one of the first things he gets asked, which is ridiculous, because to be honest, I look at the Spinks brothers. I think Leon beat him Ali, and I always thought of Mike Spinks losing to Mike Tyson. But sort of going through his career, he spent over 21 hours in the ring without defeat, totaling 31 fights, 21 knockouts. He was the undisputed light heavyweight champion, defeated 4 Hall of Famers, made history by becoming the first ever light heavyweight champion to win a heavyweight title. Yet Spinks is always remembered to be that guy that got knocked out by Mike Tyson in 91 seconds, which is sad, because we're going through his career now, and he's just, he's one of the best. He's one of the top boxers that will go down in history, and rightly so.